continuing our series in manga design, the fusion of design and storytelling. And today we're going to be drawing a little bit of Vagabond. We're going to get into the introduction of Vagabond in our series where we do the first chapter, maybe the first couple chapter of a few key series as a great way to not only get into different master artists' art styles, their, craft and their unique composition of panels and style of storytelling, but getting into how different ways you can start stories are. If you have an idea for a story, look at all these different examples of ways that great stories have been started, just to encourage taking that first step, that first leap forward. And then to expand that into an original series where we start some stories together and maybe keep some stories long running. We see first chapter, Shinmen Takezo. Takezo is taking a breath of air in the rain. I imagine he just woke up, but it's not clear. After an epic battle, we see the carcass of a horse and a number of samurai. We're not going to get into the detail here, but the moving of the story forward. So you see there's an epic battle with swords and spears strewn about, blood being washed away in the rain. Kind of a zen moment, but clearly indicative of epic combat as well, in both the beautiful zen philosophical side to the Vagabond storytelling and the intense combat, the masterful, amazing combat in Vagabond, unlike any other series. Really, really lovely that. Okay, get a shot of our hero. Continuing to breathe. He's alive, yeah. He takes a couple. He's drinking water. Yeah, no, he's drinking the rain. Takes a couple gulps. Yeah. And we're going to, we're going to make sure that we move the camera forward each time and not to get distracted by how awesome is the storytelling in the process of manga. Oh yeah, there's a number of sequences where they do 2-page spreads. We'll figure out a way of doing this better. Maybe not just, we could put them together because it kind of has to be one piece of art. I'm amazed. All the publications of Vagabond, you would not get to see these 2-page spreads. I don't know if you've ever bought a volume of manga, but it takes out the last inch of each of the sides of the panel. You can spread it as far as you can, but to actually get a clear depiction of the art, you would have to take a razor and cut it and set it side by side. So I'm grateful to the people that have done that for these awesome scans. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's just a very wide shot of our battlefield sprawling out into the distance. There's a tree. Our vanishing line is up here. Yeah, a number of small trees. The Battle of Sekigahara. Yeah. Of grass. Ideally, you'd want to practice everything, doing environments for a while. How you do environments, practice it slowly, do a couple long form studies, and then tighten it up. From there, practice quickly. See how much you can get a shorthand for depicting these long form techniques. So things like, mountains, hills, maybe a few quick perspective lines, indicating space moving into the distance, maybe not. Trees. Very sparse trees. And Again, littering of corpses, for sure. Where you see, yeah, dozens of corpses up close, extending into the far distance. There's hundreds. It'd be crazy being in an epic samurai battle. That many people, clashing together, and to leave that. Oh my god. Yeah, that much death in one place. Really wild. And just to die by the sword, to live and die by the sword. Vagabond gets in depth into the life and times of a samurai, but in a way that is Takehiko Inoue, that is, the stylish, masterful creator of Slam Dunk. It's got a lot of comedy. It's got a lot of character. In times, it's quite stylish, quite violent. Very, very cool. Yeah, I love Takehiko Inoue. Okay, so it is Takezo lying on his back. And we'll try to move briskly. Yeah, we're not trying to, create pretty pictures, but capture the movement of storytelling going forwards. And especially to do this quickly so that you could at least get an 8-page spread, maybe a 20-page spread before you go in and start perfecting your art to make sure it has a good flow and the story has a good sense of movement. And then you can always go in and perfect each individual drawing, but you want the story to move and breathe, and you want to get into the art of, like, not just making individual panels or frames, but the art of, taking those frames into this moving adventure and capturing this story. Because, you fall in love with the art, but it's the story and the hooks and wanting to know what happens next with these characters that really gets people reading and coming back. And, if you're already an artist, it's easy to fall back into what you know, what you love, what you're already really good at, But we want to encourage the expansion into the world of storytelling. Really good depiction of his hair, and then his hair goes flat when it hits the ground, because that's how that works. Yeah, rounded around the head and hits the ground. Very, I don't know, not quite apathetic, but like despondent. They lost, man, but still alive. Okay, and then we see a number of horses riding up from the distance there. Let's see if there's like more than a dozen. Yeah, flash to red. Is it like his leg is injured? There's a piece of cloth over what appears to be someone's leg. I'm not sure if it's his. Yeah, cloth, leg. We'll come back to this. Come back to this sometime. I can tell you guys want to know what that is too. Here, maybe we'll put on some white noise. I tend to like to listen to white noise when I'm just chilling. The Celestial White Noise video, it's the best. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. Sometimes you'll draw panels in, and the shape of the panel will differ from that of the source material. You can go in and try and perfect it, but I'll usually just adapt and just do the best adaptation towards the original shot. So yeah, this is more tall than is the Vagabond frame. Okay, so like you can see his ear too. Yeah, you can tell he's like, am I gonna have to kill these guys, or are these guys going to kill him? But he looks quite fearless. Okay. This one is just his eye. Yeah, if you type in read Vagabond manga free, you can find a place to read Vagabond. I'm reading it off vagabondmangafree.com. Oh, it's been ages since I've started Vagabond. Or like a year. Just about a year. Yeah, good. Okay. Try to remind me. Send me a psychic, reminder backwards through time to adjust the camera as we're moving forward, because it would suck to do a bunch of drawing off of frame. Okay, horses are getting hella near at this point. Whole battalion. Now, I'm not gonna go in and reference anything. When you're drawing the story, it's like something that you don't know how to draw really well, like horses. Just capture the silhouette, the biggest, broadest forms. I can read those are horses, but I'm the only one who has to at this point. Like I could study and focus on the drawing, but it would take time, and it would take time away from capturing the storytelling, which is what I like to try and get into first. And then learning how to draw those silhouettes, like while you're pacing your story, you're like, okay, someone rides in on a horse. You probably don't want to reference the horse until you figure out, is the storytelling working in the way that you're depicting it here? Like, do you want to change anything first? Right? Because if you're like, okay, I don't know, maybe, it's a post-apocalyptic setting and you're going to use a horse, but you're like, maybe we'll use a horse later. So you change it to like a desert Jeep, like a Mad Max Jeep. And, you've saved yourself time and energy, Thank goodness. And then in the detailing process, once the story reads and you're happy with its direction, then you can get in to, oh man, so many giant pictures in Vagabond, or like the actual size of the paper that he's using, and that they're really big. They're like master drawings. Okay. Or even this seems a bit big. And eyebrows like that. Those brows. I'm sure you like that socket shape there. Yeah. There we go. We did it. We got Takaiza looking cool again. But to be able to study this correctly, this wouldn't even have to look like a face, Like this is quite a difficult angle. And if you're just starting learning how to draw manga, like, don't worry about getting any of this looking right. Like, go back and do a head from every angle series of exercises, with like the basic block shape of the head, and do those instead of trying to get like Takeza to look right at this like kind of complex angle in Inoue's style. Like I spent a lot of time trying to do that with manga or something, like with their art style and the angle, it's so hard, like, and just never having it working until going in and doing the foundational exercises and studies, and then applying the art style and the character to that. Once you understand it, like then it's easy. Then you can just kind of go in with everything that you learned from like we have a couple videos looking at the head, but there's lots of other people and lots of amazing tutorials and such on sites like Pinterest. I don't know if he was like, am I not gonna die. And then he's like, nope, not gonna die. Haven't died yet. Yeah, okay. See, I'm spending too much time here. There's no reason, really. I mean, like, I might make these a little bit spiffy later, just so that they look nice, and that we can, like, okay, these are the backs of the horses as they're riding away. It's like a samurai there. Horse ass. Get you a horse ass. He's like turning a crazy drift. The front of the horse is like up. This is a horse moving there. You know, there's a number of horses. See, this one's way too low. You do capture a little perspective as they are riding into the distance together. Some of them large, some of them smaller. That's what I'm focusing on, because there's a crowd of people that were running, some of them large, some of them smaller, some of them real small, so that it captures this dimension in this space really, really quickly. It doesn't have to be horses, you know, it could be a pack of wolves, it could be a bunch of creatures, soldiers, anything. You could use the, a group of people creating space and distance and movement. There's like some rolling hills. Obviously it's rainy. Here. You even do a couple like rain splash droplets kind of a thing. See, that didn't take long at all. Depicting the droplets. Sometimes it's nice to do little things. Oh man, I was watching some Bob Ross. Just a couple nights ago, and it was really fun. It was fun listening to him and designing, and just hearing how he was talking about like defining things, putting them in, making them pop, with the kind of classic effortless Bob Ross style. See, yeah, pupils are something where it's kind of easy to mess up, and then you have to go in and redraw them and redraw the lines of the eyes. So sometimes I'll just leave eyes blank to save time, because it's better to have no pupils than to have some janky looking ones, and you've kind of committed once you start, you know? There we go. Move the nose up just a little bit. It has about following more of my own rules and moving the story forward. It's not a Takaiza drawing tutorial. Oh shit. This thing that I have doesn't have the best space for, let's see, let's make sure that we got it all on camera. And I'm not sure exactly how much time we have here. I'm gonna try and get it in just like a half an hour. Yeah, so we'll only do a couple more. Because I don't have any storage on my phone, and it would just cut off randomly, and then I have to delete more of my other things before I can post it to YouTube. Which is something that I'll sometimes get hung up on, and instead of making the next drawing video, like already have to wait for it to upload before I can delete it to have the space to make a new video. But I'll be like, oh fuck, I have to pick through all of my things to find enough space to sort. Yeah, it's easy to get hung up on little things, and you want to try and minimize all of the small things and the distractions in your creative space. Okay, here I would just like, I know that there are a couple branches there, so you don't have to capture Inouye's placement of branches, but if you're like, you know there's a couple branches, just put them on there yourself. because it's not like when you make a tree, he's going to be there as a guide. And the sun starts to rise over Sekigahara. Or maybe set? I don't know why they'd be fighting at night. But this next shot of him looks like he's illuminated, bathed in a heavenly light. And the creation of epic storytelling, philosophical Zen space, and epic fights. Good comedy, character, really unexpected and unique direction, character development. Like, there was no guidebook. It really throws it out and just creates a unique, genuine story. I love that. Sometimes it takes a really long time when they're like dueling, but it's so good and it's so masterful. You know, if you were reading it like chapter by chapter as coming out, it would be painful to have like 5 chapters be like 2 guys like standing down at each other and like reading their movements before they fight, and you're like, oh man, I'm so invested in this fight. But then afterwards, when you're getting the chance to read the manga once it's all come out, it's so fucking good because you can just go right on to the next one, they all fit together perfectly. It was such a gift to be able to read them once they've all come out. Like, what a long form of storytelling where you know, it's not made to have just standalone entertainment value. Each chapter, like, you know, Slam Dunk is the national manga of Japan, right? They represent Slam Dunk as their, you know, like a cultural treasure. This guy has proved his worthiness and success in the entertainment manga and can just like sit back and do this like masterwork series, you know? No one's going to complain, certainly. But yeah, when he's at the Buddhist temple fighting the monk dude, no spoilers. It's like really, really long form storytelling with like so many angles of them like just like sizing each other up and like moving hardly at all, like this mental battle kind of deal. Hell yeah. I spent some time doing backgrounds, and I was practicing the backgrounds on Princess Mononoke. There's a whole bunch of rolling fields and hills and like grasslands, and you know, spent a good deal of time trying to be able to create depth and create the movement of space where the foreground red is the foreground, the background is the background, without many, you know, clearly defined lines between them that depicted objects or anything. Ah, shit. I think somewhere there was a title page in there and we got off of the composition of the manga, you know? Like the white spaces are usually, you know, on the side of the page that splits to the other one, so that that portion of the page that is taken up by those, you know, the page folding in to the crease won't take up the art, but the empty space. Okay. His stomach is making noises back here. Always take note of your dialogue boxes. Draw them in beforehand if you can. I've just done like action scripting with a little bit of storytelling in it, and it'll be fun to learn and invest in in doing more storytelling and dialogue and fitting that within manga framework. Okay, this guy's leaning forwards and laying on the ground. And again, stuff like that, just practicing drawing of the boxes with like okay, there's a guy and he's like laying there like that until you can see that box in your head while you draw these things. Believe me, that is what makes it so much easier. Yeah, because then that's like, it reads pretty well. That's like his belt at the halfway point, and then his other leg is like there with his foot behind him, like that. And it just like reads nicely. But until you do the drawing of the figure in those boxes, if you have no invisible boxes that you can put around this figure, even when you're referencing him, it would be very difficult. I remember trying to draw things like this and they just end up wildly the wrong size and shape so many times. It is in the boxes. Forgive me, mother. I'm pretty sure those are more stomach noises. And then you just suggest the ground maybe really quickly. It's the ground. And like more of it back here. It's like it's moving into space. Right? It doesn't have to be accurate at all in this case. Now, stuff like this, if you're a digital painter, it would be super cool. Like having a really beautifully rendered, painted, like digital sunset against the sharp forms of these mountains, and using color to suggest, atmosphere and storytelling. Using the color even to, suggest emotion, memory, or whatever it is. It's not something that I know how to do expressly, so I'm like creating a map for that. I would love the opportunity to learn that, but also to collaborate with experts and masters in color and form, and to bring like brushes, digital brushes into it, to Bob Ross that shit. When he's like, okay, you get your thing set up, and then if you have the right brush and the right motion, then you can just create it instantly. Like you'd want to have, like Feng Zhu says, you don't like start with speed painting and photo bashing. You start with the foundations and long form studies. And once you know those things, then you can use tricks and tools to do it like instantly.